Hello, good evening, and welcome all you community rugby league lovers. My name's Dave Parkinson. We're here for the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League show. And as ever, I'm delighted to be joined by that man, Mr. Steve Beach. How are you doing, Steve? You okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thanks, Parky. Yeah, looking forward to this one. We've had a good weekend. Really good results to speak about, certainly in the NCL. And also talking about our nice week back at Featherstone. Just love it.
You just love that place.
I
You
do.
just love that place, Steve.
Even more so after the weekend as well. It was even better.
Gotta say, though, we did have to do a bit of cleaning up, didn't we, around that press box?
Tell me about it. Oh, I don't want to see any more tomato sauce as long as I live.
Anyway, so what are we going to be talking about? Well, we're going to start off this show by talking about the BARLA National Cup Final. So this is the open age, the blue ribbon event, really, as far as BARLA is concerned. BARLA, of course, celebrating 50 years since their inception. It was the 48th final, and it featured Siddal and Haresfinch. What happened? Well, we'll tell you in a little bit, but we've got interviews to come from Richard Knight, from Josh Milnes, and Leon Tatlock. On Saturday, I was over at, a certain local derby between Wigan St Patrick's and Leigh Miners Rangers. So we've got all the reaction from that. Dave Ruddy and Dave Rowlands putting the red on the block afterwards to have an actor with us. And we'll also hear from Lions hopeful Sam Murtagh from the Kells Club as he... as the side started its training over at what is an impressive venue, Sutton Park, Leigh Miners Rangers Academy. We'll also hear from head coach of the under-18s Lions section, Gary Hewer, as well. So lots to come over the course of the show. But Steve, it seems unfair if we start anywhere else. But that day in Featherstone, mate.
Yeah. Seriously, I'd been looking forward to it. I mean, I think the good thing was the way how our show goes. Obviously, we cover as much different leagues as possible, and in this case, it was NCL versus Northwest Men. So that was a good, sort of David and Goliath type scenario to it. Both probably Siddal and that weren't up to the usual mark going into this. I didn't think, and Haresfinch were probably, peaking a little bit above what they normally would do. So it seemed, as though it could be a good game, and it didn't disappoint either. The whole day didn't, but certainly the game didn't disappoint at all.
Just have a listen to this. So this is the winning celebration. See if you can work out before we start going through what happened. How brilliant is that, Steve?
But that's how it should be, shouldn't it? I mean, if you've won a competition, that's how you should celebrate at the end of the day.
So it was Siddal 30, Haresfinch 10, and this is what happened. So very little to choose between the two sides in the opening 10 minutes. Perhaps, Haresfinch going closest through Leon Tatlock before a 10th minute individual effort over 20 metres from halfback Lewis Hosty. That was converted by Richard Pogson, 6 points to 0. Then Jordan Morris, he was tackled off the ball. It was a big tackle as well, to be honest. And it again saw Haresfinch apply some pressure, but they couldn't make anything of it. Then after 20 minutes, Pogson was held up over the try line. And at this particular point, Haresfinch were under an awful lot of pressure because, as we know at Featherstone, as we've remarked about before, it does have quite a pertinent slope to it. And it would be fair to say that Siddal had the first use of it. So they were going downhill in the first half, weren't they, Siddal, and applying all the pressure. So after Pogson was held up over the line, you're then thinking, what's going to happen next? Surely they're going to concede. But no, perhaps against the run of play, Haresfinch went right up the other end and scored. Josh Ainsworth, who impressed me with his handling throughout, he got the ball out to Matty Norton and he burned off the cover from 10 metres to go over. And that was also converted by Ainsworth. 6 points each at that stage. Then, just a couple of minutes later, Haresfinch, they really had the tails up this time round. And Leon Tatlock, he went close again, only to spill a ball off Josh Ainsworth. It would have been a spectacular score, to be honest, but you've got to credit the defence as far as Siddal were concerned. Just a minute later, they'd made a change at Siddal. They'd sent Eddie Ainley on off the bench, and the replacement hooker, he was brilliant. Went quite close to getting the Player of the Match award, to be honest. He darted out of dummy half. First time he touched it, went over the halfway, linked with Hosty on the 30-metre line. He burned off the other chasers to go over under the post. Richard Pogson potted his second goal to make it 12 points to 6. Then, just a couple of minutes out from half-time, Ainley was held up over the try line, but they weren't going to be denied, were Siddal. And Eddie Ainley, he dived in from dummy half, Pogson goal to open up an 18-6 half-time advantage. At this stage, I've got to be honest, Steve, I was fearing a little bit for Haresfinch. I was wondering how they were going to start the second half because I thought had Siddal been able to, get a bit of territory in the opening section of that second half, they might crumble.
Yeah. I agree. And I think we remarked, didn't we, during the half-time that Haresfinch possibly needed to be the next to score. Otherwise, exactly that could have happened because they were just managing to get it together at Siddal and sort of linking up. Certainly at half-back and 9, as you said, we're really getting it together. But yeah, second half came upon us.
It did. And then 3 minutes in, Haresfinch scored the first try of the second half. Lovely work move out to the left-hand side. Matty Norton getting his way through, getting his nose through the line for his second try of the game. Unfortunately, as far as Ainsworth was concerned, he couldn't goal, but that made it 18 points to 10 in favour of Siddal. But then it was Siddal's turn to apply a little bit of pressure, and Daniel Williams, he went in from close range, little bit of nifty footwork around the play the ball area as well, which ended up just creating that little bit of space for the big forward to crash over under the post. Pogson goal to make it 24 points to 10. Williams was then held up after 52 minutes. Then just after the hour mark, there was an excellent chip and chase from Fallon Kelly Duffy for Haresfinch, but unfortunately it came to nothing for them. The excellent Ben West, as he did throughout the game at fullback for Siddal, he cleaned up a lot of the attacking threats with the kicks and made some good meters. So the next note that I have, 63 minutes, Ben West broke through and was pulled back for Siddal. It was a penalty to them because of a tackle off the ball. But they couldn't make advantage of it. And the next chance went the way of Haresfinch, but Rob Gormley put a ball down in the corner, all thanks to good defence from Siddal. Then, a couple of minutes later, Norton ruined his copybook, blotted it. He got himself sin-binned, finishing the game on the bench. And then in the final minute, perhaps adding a little bit of gold to the performance, really. Richard Pogson darted out 70-metre run. This came after Henry Turner charged down a Haresfinch attempted kick over the top. And it was really good reactions, I thought, from the centre to scoop up and then feed it almost in the same movement, to be honest, for Richard Pogson. And Pogson goal to make it 30 points to 10. We had the task, didn't we, Steve, of picking out a player of the match. And I've already mentioned, Ainley went, really, really well for Siddal. Who else impressed you over the course of the afternoon?
Yeah, there was a couple, actually. Obviously, the forwards for Siddal, sort of really stood up and made a good mark. And obviously, Smithies, a well-known name, of course, was always up there as a contender. But from an half-back point of view, both obviously Pogson from his goal kicking, but also his play as well was there or thereabouts. But for me, even straight from the first half, Lewis Hosty looked a class apart, and he was always there. He was in the right place at the right times. He's searching out the gaps and setting up players, and he looked the business for me.
So Hosty got the eventual Man of the Match award. I was quite impressed as well with Josh Milnes. I thought he put a big effort in the front row as far as Siddal were concerned. And then as well, you look on the Haresfinch side, there was heroes there from Norton. I know he blotted his copybook, but he did end up with 2 tries, almost had a third at one point as well. Unfortunately, saw the ball go down in front of him just at that moment in time. And then as well, I was pretty impressed with the fullback as well.
Was it Matty Ross?
Matty Ross,
Matty
sorry.
Ross
Matty Ross it was, yeah. Matty Ross, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the fullbacks on both sides were really good. And again, as you say, were in contention. I think both sides were possibly guilty at times of a little lack of composure and just trying to force it. And there were times, if they hadn't done that, they would have been in much better positions. I mean, it's easy to sit here and sort of analyse this, to an nth degree. Even Super League teams do exactly the same thing and try and force it too much. But all in all, the game as a whole was really, really good. Got to give a shout to a referee as well, Denson Arnold, who I thought was very good. You hardly knew he was there, to be fair, and when he was needed to be there, for me, made the correct decisions.
Yeah, so I mean, I think he only blew for 10 penalties all the way through the game, to be honest, as well, Steve. And I've got just a couple of set restarts that he gave throughout the game too, because I was trying to keep an eye on those, because I always like to. And fair play as well to touch judge Luke Flavelle. He was on his 18th birthday and doing a decent job there. So big shout out to Luke. He's another one of the up and coming young match officials that we have there.
The thing is, like we were saying, the team as a whole, that touch judge and referees team, there was no contentious decisions, I didn't think. And I'm sure either Siddal or Haresfinch fans will be saying, oh, hang on. But as a neutral sitting there watching the game of rugby, there was nothing there where I could turn around and say, oh, hang on, he made a howler there or they made a howler there. I thought it was really, really well officiated.
So yeah, as well as Denton Arnold having a top game, we've also got to compliment his touch judges, Lewis O'Brien and Luke Flavelle, who was celebrating his 18th birthday. Tell you what, he's going to remember that 18th as long as he lives, isn't he, Luke? Was there on the touchline in the BARLA National Cup Final. Absolutely superb. Tell you what, Steve, shall we have some reaction?
Yeah. Then we'll have a little bit of a chat about a few things with regards to the day as a whole.
So after the match, I caught up with Siddal boss Richard Knight. This was straight afterwards as well, so you can imagine he was a happy, happy man.
Okay, I'm really pleased to be joined at the end of this BARLA Cup Final by Richard Knight from Siddal. Tough old encounter that, wasn't it?
Yeah, they're a pretty physical side, weren't they? We knew they would be. This was their Challenge Cup Final. And we didn't start very well, we didn't complete very high, and we gifted them a start into the game. So yeah, we made it tough throughout, but all credit to them. They were tough throughout, they kept coming. Up until that sin bin in with 10 minutes to go, it was still in the balance. So really proud of our boys, because it's tough coming up and playing one of these when you're thinking you're going to win and you're expected to win. So I'm glad they got the job done today.
Bit of a new challenge this season, entering the National Cup for Siddal as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the club wanted it for the revenue purposes more than anything, so that's what we went with. Fortunately, it's been quite costly. We've had 4 or 5 games in it and lost about 14, 15 players, and some of them are season long. So to get here and to win were massive, because there's a lot of players that aren't going to play now the regular season and in the playoffs towards the end, because they put the body on the line in January, February, when we probably weren't ready. So yeah, it's a blessing that we've got the trophy, and for the Speckies and the sponsors who stick with us throughout. So yeah, it's really good for them as well.
This is what, your third season at Siddal?
Second year. Yeah, they brought me in to get some silverware. I don't think they thought the National Cup were going to be the one.
Hey, at least you can count it though.
Yeah, that's it. I'll definitely be counting that. No, we just used it as friendlies at the beginning of the season. We were lucky enough to play well and get here. So like I said, the boys have been playing since January. We start training in November, so it's a long old season like it was last year. I just hope we've been struggling. We've only won one out of his last 5, so I just hope today gives us a bit of confidence. We might get some boys back in the next 4 or 5 weeks, and we can start to get ourselves up the table a bit and make sure we're in a better place than what we were last year when the season ends.
And it would be a tough ask this, didn't it? Because I mean, for a lot of that second half, you was defending stoutly.
Yeah, we defended his own try line there, 4 back-to-back sets, and the game in the balance. And it was only 10-point ball game, so no, I expect him to turn up and defend without not doing justice to Haresfinch. They are a North West men's counties team. We want to do something this year and win an NCL Prem. And for us to win an NCL Prem, we need to defend like we did there and like we did when we played Sheffield Eagles 5 or 6 weeks ago. So I'm just really pleased for the boys, really pleased for the club. Great opportunity they've given me here to come and coach what I probably think is the biggest amateur club in the country. So I'm glad I've got this for them boys who put the faith in me at the beginning of last year, and we'll celebrate well into the night, I'm sure.
I'm sure you will. Now, I've got to ask as well, because obviously a lot of people watching it will pick out the performance of your 2 halfbacks as key with the kicking game.
Yeah.
But did anybody else stand out for you?
Yeah, his halves were good, but that's my 5th scrum half I've used in 10 games. That's how, and he's been out for 12 weeks. It's his first game back. The halves are really good. I thought Westy, our fullback, he was his 2nd game back after being out 10 weeks, stood up. But I thought it was middles. As 8, 10 and 13 who start the game, they're always strong for us. They've knocked out between 55 and 65 minutes between them 3. As bench 9 were really, really good. And we've got 2 boys who played in the Cup yesterday for the 2nd team who've backed up and come with us today. We are pretty busted, so a big part of the back to them 2 as well.
That's great commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. I didn't want to take the best 2 players out of the seconds to play with us today and them not get many minutes and leave the 2nd team a bit weak yesterday, so we went with what we could with them and they got the win, and 2 of the boys who went the best backed up today and stood up for the team, and yeah, they've had a great weekend.
I appreciate your time, Richard. I'm going to let you soak up this because they don't come around very often.
No. Thank you, buddy.
You can tell how much it meant to him, that, and meant to him for getting silverware for the club as well. In his 2nd year as coach of Siddal now. And it would be fair to say that they didn't live up to expectations last year. They've got high standards there.
Yeah, similar to say, I saw them play Thatcherweath a couple of seasons ago. I think it was the beginning of last season, the first game, and they really impressed me. Some of the rugby that they played. Similar to say, a bit of a stuttering start at the moment to the season. So certainly a win like that does, it boosts the confidence. And there's the argument, hang on, they're playing the North West men's side here. Let's get it right. Haresfinch were playing weight, punching really above the weight, and if you'd have come as a neutral and you didn't know which league these 2 teams were from, you want to turn around and said, which was really the weaker side or which was supposedly the stronger side.
Let's have some player reaction, shall we? First of all, from runners-up and Haresfinch, Leon Tatlock.
Okay, delighted to be joined by Leon Tatlock. Leon, it was a really close game, that one. I thought in a lot of ways you were unlucky to lose.
Do you know what? Yeah, it feels that way. I think probably a couple of lads on the way here on the bus were probably thinking that they're in too tough of a game and they're going to struggle. Probably thinking about the occasion a little bit more, but that they turned up, we give ourselves a chance. Everyone put their heart into it. Can't fault the lads.
And yourself as well, getting a run out in the centres.
To be honest, I was in the back row at the start of the season, but we had a couple of personnel change and centre went into half-back, so just me left in the centre. So I'm not as thin as I used to be. I'm a little bit slower now, but I managed.
But you look like you're enjoying it, and that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, just enjoying it being with lads. Just being with, like I said, mates from school, lads that I've known for years that are, like I said, just a bit different for me. I was at Thatcherweath for a couple of years and now I'm at Haresfinch. It's my local club, so being around all my mates and winning stuff last year with them and reaching the final is a big thing, so it means a lot.
And we were just saying off the mic that we go back some years, don't we? Because it's like when you was a kid playing for Leigh Academy.
Yeah. I remember being a kid a while ago now.
It's not that long. Please say it's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago, but yeah. I feel like retiring now, but it starts hurting the body a little bit more, but I'm getting used to it. It's not too bad, I'm enjoying it.
And you've been going pretty well in Prem, haven't you?
Yeah, Prem's not doing too bad. I think there was at the start of the season we played Chevy, we went about 20 points up probably shocked ourselves a little bit, and then a yellow card and a couple of errors, and it shows the little difference in class between the first division and the Prem. So we let them back into it. We ended up getting a draw, but apart from that, we've got some good results.
Do you think that this could, without you played in this game, do you think this can spearhead you on for the rest of the season?
Honestly, if we play like that, we've got every chance to lose something in this league. Whether it's get to the playoffs and make a final, push for the final, do well in the league. I think if we play as well as we did today, I don't see why not. Gives us a chance.
Cheers, Leon. Thank you very much.
No worries, you're welcome. Thank you.
Tell you what, Steve, it's been a good while since I last had a chat with Leon, and he's a good lad. I first met him 10 years ago or something like that. He was playing for Leigh's academy and reserve sides at the stage, but it would be fair to say he's had an interesting time at the community level since. He was saying about how much he enjoys being at Haresfinch, playing amongst his pals, and he certainly puts a big effort in, doesn't he? Both, I commented because he started the season off as a second rower. And he's playing in the centre, in that game. But he looks like he's enjoying it, and that's half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah, and it works well. Again, we were chatting about size of some centres these days, even in the community game. And Leon, sort of epitomises that. He didn't look out of place. He looked, his effort was really, really on points, and he needed to be coming up against the likes of Siddal, and they'll learn a bucket load of things from this game because, okay, they got beat at the end of the day, but if you remember when we were chatting to the coaches a few weeks ago, initially they just entered it to thinking it's like a warm-up for the beginning of the season. That's how they approached it. But as they started getting closer to, hang on, we could be in the final here, suddenly it was, right, let's get our head down and give it our best. And that will only stand them in good stead, massively.
They certainly did. I thought that they played really well, to be fair. And as you heard me ask the question there, do you think it'll stand you in good stead for the rest of the season? And perhaps you can use it as a springboard. And he agreed wholeheartedly. Yeah. So we'll keep a close eye on Haresfinch, I think, for the rest of the season and see whether it translates, I think. But great to catch up with Leon after all of this time. Now, sticking with the players' reaction, we're now going to go back to Siddal, and I caught up with Josh Millens to ask his immediate thoughts after the final.
Delighted to be alongside Josh Millens. Josh, that was a tough game, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate. They turned up big. We knew with it being with a final, they were going to turn up no matter what league they were in, and yeah, they went the full 80, so it were tough.
And just having a chat with Richard there, he was saying that your form's been a little bit up and down in the league so far. Well, this could really kickstart you on to better things.
Yeah, mate, we've been on and off. We started the season real well, obviously in the Challenge Cup, going well against Sheffield, but we've lost a bit of form recently, and I think hopefully this will kick on, and then when we go to Hunslet next week, we'll get a big win.
So you've got Hunslet next week. It's only a small matter then.
But Hunslet, mate, they're going well, aren't they? But we'll give them a crack.
Is that at your place or at theirs?
At theirs, I think, mate. At theirs.
Yeah. So, how have you been going personally? Because I know that Richard was sort of full of praise for you middle boys.
Yeah, all right, mate. We've been playing about 60 minutes a game. We're doing it tough, but just got to stick in there, ain't you?
And I've got to ask you, as a guy that's represented England Community Lions, obviously, that's where our paths have crossed. Yeah. Are you looking to get on something come the end of the season when there's all this talk of open age stuff?
Who knows, mate? Who knows? Just focus on playing week in, week out a minute, and then if that comes off the back, it comes off the back. See what happens.
I'll let you go and rejoin your teammates.
Tell you what, Steve, you've been around the community game a little bit. When you start looking down teams and thinking, I know him, he's represented the Lions, or he's done this, or he's done that. But it makes it so much easier to go to these guys and have a chat with them. And I always love to get that immediate, honest reaction. And by his own admission, Siddal haven't been going as well as they perhaps hoped that they would have done at the start of the season. But again, similar to how we were saying to Leon, Haresfinch could use it as a springboard into the rest of the season. So too could Siddal, couldn't they?
Yeah, exactly, mate. As we were saying, they're having a bit of a stutter, and any silverware and where your lads have come together. There's that confidence building there, and suddenly there's the belief back in the shoulders, and yeah, it could help them massively.
And so It was a really enjoyable day, a really enjoyable occasion. I've got to thank Sue Taylor and Steve Manning and all the BARLA board because they made us feel, like kings, didn't they? We were treated like kings when we got in there, to be fair.
We certainly were, and it was great to see the back scenes, as it were. I mean, obviously we usually get to games and we're straight into the obviously the press box getting things ready, but we managed to get there nice and early. And obviously Ste and everybody else were absolutely fantastic with their hospitality. One other thing I've got to say about the day as well, Parky, the Haresfinch support. we were travelling and we were tucked behind two of the coaches that were going there. Loads and loads of families there, lots of kids there, and it was good to see that Finch and they were determined to mark the day really, really well. They were proud that they got there, and the merchandise that they sold, the amount of T-shirts with Finch on the front were absolutely unbelievable. I thought, do you know what? Hey, well done, guys. You took a good marketing tool there, and it looked really smart. There was loads of kids there as well from the club who would enjoy it. And of course the Siddal fans as well, they managed to get in the away end, as it were, and made it a good day from a supporter's point of view as well.
It was a cracking little attendance, wasn't it? And also the atmosphere. I mean, we know through being at that ground, and having worked on that ground for all the previous times, it's one of those where you don't need that many supporters to create an atmosphere. No. But I tell you what, you're right. It was really well attended, particularly by the Haresfinch guys. And I've got to say, I can add another line to my CV now, can't I? Dave Parkinson, creche facilities.
Oh, yes. Everybody was swooning over Parky and asking him what he was doing. And do you write about it or do you talk about it? Oh, there was they loved it. And that was good because obviously the young guys who were sat at the side of you watching you, taking all your notes and sort of marking down when people scored, etc. It was good for them to see how that was done, and it could have been so easy that they sat there and sort of been disruptive, but they weren't. They were great. They enjoyed being there. They even helped us at times getting some of the numbers right that we didn't have down.
Yeah, they did. So, my thanks go to those lads, actually. They were, really, really good, really helpful at certain points. And I hope that they got something from it as well, in sort of being able to sit and see how a game operates from a press point of view. And it would be fair to say, we didn't do a Leeds United on them, did we?
No, we certainly didn't. Or an Arsenal.
Oh, I didn't realise Arsenal had done that.
Arsenal did it first, apparently.
Oh, flipping heck. Come to Rugby League. It's a much friendlier game, guys. No problems at all. You get to chat to your media, you can chat to your players, and it always helps when one of the lads, his dad, scores 2 tries. So he was in a real happy mood, wasn't he?
He was when we kept on saying to him, "Who scored that then?" And he kept saying, "It was me dad. It was me dad."
So it would be fair to say it was a really good day. Yeah. I even get the feeling that a lot of the Finch fans would have really enjoyed that, and they can see just how hard their side has worked to get to that final.
Well, the thing is now, they'll want to experience that in sort of other ways, shapes or form. And the thing is, the way that they're playing, there's no reason that can't be happen again at the end of the season in the Northwest Men's League for them.
Well, that's a big statement, that, Mr. Beak.
If they carry that momentum that they've got, as I said, they were playing well before, and I'm convinced they're going to be in the mix at the end of the season.
So, final score again in that one: Haresfinch 10, Siddal 30. But again, it was fantastic to be there, and for us to get to cover the game in the way that we do and get to talk about it. It's always a great honour to do that and to get to finals.
Yeah, the other thing is Parky as well. We love going, but I think this time with us being able to chat to people as well, who obviously from board members, etc., about what we do as a show and what we're trying to do. It's good when you get that word across and they can understand, and hopefully, we can be involved, in other ways, shapes or forms, whether we can help them, if they can open doors for us, that would be great. But yeah, as a day as a whole, it was really, really good.
So you're marking it in your calendar for next year?
Definitely, mate. There's no problem about that.
So fingers crossed, we'll be back again covering it all again next time round. But I want to switch attentions now. I want to go into the National Conference League. And first of all, I want to start with the game that I was at. So this was a local derby in the Premier Division between Wigan St Patrick's and Leigh Miners Rangers. So following this one, Wigan St Patrick's climbed to 9th in the Impact Performance National Conference Division after a well-fought victory over neighbours and rivals Leigh Miners Rangers. The hosts showed two sides to their game, with an impressive first half that brought 5 tries and a 28-0 interval lead. While in the final 20 minutes, they impressively held Leigh Miners Rangers at bay after being reduced to 12 men following the dismissal of Danny Riding. Early on, both sides enjoyed time attacking the other's goal line, with Pat's Craig Thomas going closest to breaking the deadlock, but he was unable to hold a bullet pass amidst some heavy traffic. 10 minutes in, Pats went in front when from a scrum, standoff Connor Taylor stepped to defender and blazed 70 metres. Thomas added the goal. Noah Lancelot was stopped short of the line at the other end after 15 minutes before Miners Rangers prop Joe Connor was sin-binned for a high tackle on Taylor. Initially, the visitors defended this deficit well, but Wigan St Pats moved play intelligently and struck with a superb try from Sam Arrowsmith, who weaved through the defence from 50 metres and kept 2 defenders guessing over the last 20. Another try quickly followed when Dave Thompson cut inside after crisp passing work from the spine. Thomas again added the goal to make it 18-0. From the restart, the hosts were irresistible once more as veteran Liam Gannon inspired them with a break. Taylor followed up and Thomas finished, just twisting over despite the attentions of 3 would-be tacklers. He couldn't convert, but Pats looked good at 22-0. It got even better in the 34th minute when clever play from Taylor undid the defence and Johnny Brown supported through the middle to touch down at the side of the post for Thomas to land his 4th goal. There was still time for Taylor to miss with a drop goal attempt before the break, and Wigan St Pats were rampant, 28-0 up at the interval. Leigh Miners Rangers were a different beast in the second half, more focused in attack and clinical in defence, behind the efforts of Connor and outstanding substitute Steve Jones. Declan Flannery opened their account for the afternoon after a good pass from stand-in half-back Harvey Gotts, and Sam Pilkington converted. Another try for the visitors followed 11 minutes later when Will Ashworth cruised in from Marco Williamson's pass. Pilkington goal and then had a try of his own chalked off a couple of minutes later after being ruled offside. He was a good couple of strides in front of the kicker. Wigan St Patrick's were rocking, and their cause wasn't helped when Danny Riding was dismissed after making contact with the head in a crunching challenge. Knowing they needed points quickly, Miners Rangers began moving the ball and were rewarded in the 67th minute when Lancelot spent 90 metres for a glorious winger's try. Pilkington's 3rd goal made it 28-18. Wigan St Patrick's then tightened their line and made sure of their defensive detail before winning territory and securing the win after 74 minutes when Brad Smith dabbed the ball behind the goal line and was quickest to respond, grounding for a try that proved too far wide for Thomas to goal. It didn't matter in the final analysis though, as Wigan St Pats completed a 32-18 win. Got to say, Steve, this was an outstanding performance from Pats.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah, we spoke, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago when they were due for play Loch Lane, and obviously Loch Lane are down there in the lower regions, as it were. And I said at the time that this is one of those sorts of real key fixtures where, and even though it's early in the season, if you can at least get away from your nearest opponent, at least it can set you up, and they did. And obviously this week they've gone on, and it really is a good win that. And like we were saying before, with the other guys who've played in the final, they can use their result as a springboard. This is another one. Wigan St Pats can use this now and say, right, okay, we know we can do it, so let's see if we can, sort of produce it next week and move on up, as it were.
Now, I have to admit, I always go to these games with a bit of an open mind and seeing who impresses me. And I've got to say that I'd not seen a lot of Steve Jones off the bench for Leigh Miners Rangers, but he was very good. He kept driving the ball in and driving the ball in. And quite often he was dragging 2, 3, even 4 defenders along with him. He made a ton of meters, to be honest. But perhaps more impressively for Wigan St Pats was the work that their standoff Connor Taylor did. He was absolutely phenomenal. You know, when you see a player and you think, you look at him and you think after his first couple of passes, blimey, he looks a good one.
Yeah.
That was Connor. Has a magnificent step on him. And he must have beat something like 12 defenders over the course of the game, which was a brilliant effort from him. And to be fair, most of the good stuff came off him in the first half. So I think he was a deserved player of the match. But after the game, again, I like getting reaction and I like talking to people. So, of course, who did I seek out? But Dave Rowlands, first of all, from Leigh Miners Rangers. And this is what he had to say.
Well, I'm with Leigh Miners Rangers coach Dave Rowlands. Dave, we've just seen your side go down, unfortunately, here at Wigan St Pats by 32 points to 18. What did you make of the game?
A game of two halves, massively two halves. We just completely didn't get out the first half. I think it was 22-0 half time. Pats were really good, taking nothing away from them. We just didn't even get out to the dressing room. And I told them at half time, in enough words, that I wanted a reaction, and we kind of got that reaction. But credit to Pats, they won on the day. Even in second half though, Danny Riding gets sent off. It's one of them. In today's game, it's a red. 5 years ago, that's not a red card. It's a penalty at most. 5 years ago, I thought it was a good tackle, if I'm honest. But that's how the game is. You can't go in with a swinging arm anymore. And I thought they showed a lot of character because we were coming back into the game then, and at points with 12 men, they looked like they had more men than us. So Pats fully deserved the win today, and we thought we have to be better than that. It's just that simple. We have to be better.
Really, you had that 25 minutes just after half time, didn't you?
Yeah. We come out fast. A couple of tries, and then if anything, I think we started for overplay, lost our shape a little bit, trying to chase the scoreline, and it's just one of them days. It's frustrating, but I said if we can show that kind of character that we showed in first half for 80 minutes, there's only one winner today, and it's us. It's that simple. But like I said, thought Pats deserved the win at the end.
It's a few weeks since I last caught up with you, and unfortunately results haven't gone your way on a lot of those occasions. Yeah. But I do want to say, you picked up perhaps the result of the season at Westall the other week. What did you put that down to?
We just turned up. It's that simple. I mean, to be fair, we should have won at Siddal away. We're at best side. And at Westall, we're at best side. They've not lost at home for 2.5 years, so that's their first loss in 2.5 years. And as a club, we've not won there since 2016 when we beat them in playoffs. So we're outstanding. Last week against Loughborough, we're outstanding. If we don't go down to 12 men, we win that game. So it's fine margins, and I've said it to a few coaches who I've spoke with. I think apart from Hunslet Park side, any team can beat any team this year. It's a bit weird. Usually you've got 3 or 4 teams that are at the top that are quite a lot better than the others. Like for the last few years, it's kind of been Loughborough, Hunslet Park side, Westall, Fatto. I don't think them 3 sides are kind of away from the gap as much as they used to be. I think it's a lot closer, but like I say, Hunslet Park side, they're by far the best team in this league this year. I think they could quite easily be finishing top 6 in Championship 1.
I think I would agree with you there, to be honest. But I mean, as well, you've sort of hinted upon it. I think a lot of it comes down to being able to select from consistency, doesn't it?
Of course, it's like taking nothing away from the performance today, but I'm putting 5 players in from last week, and it's week before we actually got Westall and I'm on bench, so that's just where we are. But you speak to every other club, and that's where we are as a game at the minute, and I've said it until I'm blue in the face. We need to revert back to starting in September and finishing in May, because there's too many distractions. And if you did that and had the break in summer, that's when lads would go and do stuff, whereas now they're just doing it whenever indoors says they have to do it.
That's interesting, because I mean, I spoke to Jamie Smith last week at Pilks, and he was saying he's used 6 full-backs this year.
Yeah. And,
are you in a similar sort of position with half-backs and combinations?
Yes, so we've had 2 games where we've had the same spine. That's it. On the
That
bench.
says it all, really.
It says it all. And I think we're up to 32 players already used. So, and that's where you are. You don't get taking nothing away from them lads that are coming in. They're doing a job, but you speak to ones at part side and they've used 22.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. So what they've got coming in is fringe players, and sometimes you're having players who are not quite at this level come in and do a job, and they are doing a job, but it's a tough level to play at when you're in Prem in NCL. It's a really, really tough level.
What's your next couple of games looking like at Prem?
Well, it gets no easier. We've got Fato at home on Thursday, a rearranged game, so that gets no easier because obviously when Fato are at it, they're red hot. And then we go to York away. York have picked up a couple of good wins this season, so like I said, there's just no easy games. I've no doubt about us as a squad. If we turn up on our day, I would back us to beat anyone but Unsley, but it's getting us to turn up. I don't know what team I'm going to get at the minute, as you've seen by that first half there today.
Thanks for being as frank as you have been. I always appreciate it.
No
always
problem.
enjoying that with you. And best of luck for looking forward.
Thank you. Cheers.
Dave Rowlands cut a bit of a frustrated figure, in fairness, and it's understandable. I mean, his side didn't show up in the first half, and they were played off the field by what ended up being a rampant Pats, in fairness. And I just got the feeling that, had they been a little bit more, I don't want to say dedicated, because that maybe sounds a little bit wrong, but had they been a bit more switched on at periods of that first half, that scoreline wouldn't have got away from them as much as it did. But I don't want to take anything away from Wigan St Pats either. And obviously Dave was quick to praise St Pats in the way that they played. But interestingly enough, he raised two things which were fascinating me. So first of all, they've used 32 players early on in this season. Now, this seems to be a bit of a magic number, because if you remember chats with Jamie Smith at Pilks,
that's right,
he was exactly the same number. So he's thinking, they've used something like 4 or 5 different halfback combinations. Again, similar to what it is. They had a real makeshift halfback pairing today in Harvey Gotts in the game. Sorry, in Harvey Gotts, who's more of a back row forward than a standoff. And they had Lee Hudson, and Lee Hudson has often played 9 in his career. So that was a bit of a makeshift halfback pairing. They shipped Marco Williamson off to fullback, and it would be fair to say I don't think Marco had his best game. He was much better second half and a bit more involved, but it seemed to bypass him a lot in the first half. And for me, he's one of these guys that he's always a bit more effective when he is playing at halfback, in fairness.
Yeah, the thing is, you let a team get too far ahead, certainly in the first half, and you're up against it. Coming out of the sheds of the second half. It can be a step too far. As much as you can try your hardest. The minutes start churning down, and it is difficult. I mean, to be fair, Miners did well. To sort of get that 18 in the second half, considering how it was in the first.
They did. They played some really good stuff in the second half, actually, but it was just a little bit too late. The second point, though, from Dave's interview was when he mentioned about how he would look at maybe addressing the fact that they've got a lack of, or they've used so many players, but on certain game days have a lack of numbers. I know that sounds like a bit of a misnomer, that, doesn't it? But, for example, Miners Rangers turned up at St Pats with 16 players, not the regulation 17. And then the other week when they were at West Hull, Dave Rowlands had to put himself on the bench. So that says an awful lot about where the game finds itself at community level at this moment in time. I don't know whether he got on the field like Jamie Smith did, but even so, when a coach is having to name himself, it does suggest that player availability is a little bit of an issue. And he was suggesting that the game goes back to a winter start, or an autumn start, so starting in September, running through till April. It's an interesting old conundrum, that, isn't it?
And you know what, Dave? That is something I've heard quite a few times. When I've been chatting to people up and down the games that we go, and we start talking about things like, obviously, games. You know my little pet thing with games getting cancelled, etc. And when we've been discussing that, quite a few times people have mentioned about, possibly going back to maybe not just full winter, but like he said, sort of moving it slightly so there's into an area where there's not as much going on. Because obviously summertime, the sun's out. We say it week in and week out. There are other commitments, certainly family wise. And if you've got a nice day and you've got the kids and it's let's get them out and go somewhere nice. Then are you going to say no? The bottom line is, it's all played for fun. You shift that along where you're getting where it's colder or a lot cooler. I mean, there's less chance of those types of things. There's less chances of going on holiday other than going abroad. But obviously that would be, a lot less than it would in the main summertime. It swings and roundabouts because you then start talking about the pitches being hard, the pitches being muddy when it gets all raining and that type of thing. So, yeah, but yeah, there's a discussion needs to be had, I think.
You mentioned raining, and it would be fair to say the heavens opened during this next interview. So I managed to prize an excited Dave Ruddy away from his team, and we shared this interview. Very authentic. There's lots of music in the background, lots of singing, but this is what we love about this show as well, to be fair. So here's my chat with Wigan St Pats boss Dave Ruddy.
Okay, I'm joined by Dave Ruddy, Wigan St Pats. Got to say, Dave, that really was a game of two halves, that, wasn't it? I thought he was really, really good in that first half. Everything seemed to stick.
We played really well, yeah. We just had injuries. We're running out of subs. That's what cost in the second half. We got tired, and Miners are a good team. They put early pressure on at the second half, scored 2 tries, and it's a game on then.
Yeah, but I mean, take me back through that first half. What was your kind of like messages that you sent him out with?
The first half, where we set up, where we try to play, especially on our field, is out at maximum. And we're not the biggest of teams, so we try to use the space. So we give a lot of our stuff, look into a situation, and then we'll play off that. But some of the try when we executed them, they were absolutely out of this world.
Some of that handling was superb first half, wasn't it?
And they do that, and they can do that against the best teams. But then we'll make a mistake from a kick-off. Little things what are costing at the moment. We got away with it last year in the Championship. Now we're in the Premier. I'm not saying the bigger, the faster, but the better play, the more organised, the more skillful. And they get through the sets, and you can't make mistakes because you're just tackling all the time. And if you give them a penalty or losing ball, bringing it away, they'll score. So you've got to be really, really on the ball. We've tried to come up with a call. If we get in front and there's 15 minutes go, we don't need to start playing. We just get to a last tackle and we put a kick down the field and we'll defend it without giving any penalty. But it doesn't always work like that. Like I said, we ended up with a man sent off with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, I've got to say though, that kind of galvanised you a bit.
You know something, Dave? I've just said that is stuff. What got us home was stuff you can't coach, because they've got a massive role on Miners. When the winger went full length and put it down to 28-18, and there was 13 minutes go.
It was rocking, wasn't it?
Oh, it was well on. We got a bit of field position, and Brad Smith. We deserved it. And after, like you say, the last 10 minutes, even we were down to 12 with no more subs, we controlled the game, which they had a design what you can't coach that. And they did it last week against Loch Lane. Loch Lane got a roll on the same as Miners, but even the last 5 minutes, we never had, but they couldn't score. Yeah. And that you can't, and that's what's. I know we can play. When they're doing the plays, they're very, very good. They're a good set of lads and they're skillful. But that desire to stop Miners from scoring again, it's invaluable. That.
I was going to ask you, because you seem to have found that you won your last 2 games, which you found that little bit of consistency that was perhaps missing initially.
The same. Siddal away. We got beat with 6-7 minutes ago. It was 28-20. We was on the line, and they scored a couple of tries later on, blew the scoreboard out. Westall here at home, it was 24-22. Last 5 minutes they scored. So we've been in the games, but we went to Hunsley. We were struggling on the bench there, but I don't think I've seen a better team than Hunsley. I've been in this court in this league for over 30 years. But Hunsley were absolutely first class.
To be fair, Dave's just said something similar actually.
They were absolutely. The discipline was unbelievable. They were skillful, they're fast, they look fit. For me, Westall were very good, don't get me wrong. But they've all been. Look, Leigh were good last week, Leigh Miners have been good today. Westall, yeah, it's a different step up this Conference Premier Division.
When I've been asking people, because obviously I know that with the way modern community rugby works, you can be making 6-7 changes a week. How many players have you used so far this season?
Don't get me wrong, and it could ruffle a few feathers. I think summer rugby has been a bit of I don't know, a downfall sometimes, because you just can't get the same team every week because of holidays. It's simple as that. And when we were successful, which we have been we've been coaching since it started this league, and we've won it and we've come second 5 times. But when we were successful, we used about 23, 24 players a season. Now, when you look at the end of the season, you'll have used 50 players. So just every week you've a different halfback combination, a different wing. You just can't. You're just getting lads to turn up and play, which is a shame because it's a fantastic competition. There's some real good teams, but you can't have consistency because there's always something on, like bank holiday weekends and people or whatever. But what we're struggling with at the minute is because we've not got a second team, so we're relying on a core of players, and they've been first class for us, I must admit.
I mean, I was hearing the story of a couple of your lads coming back from weekends away to play for you.
He's just gone back, young Craig, he's got his 2 young kids. He's come this morning from his caravan holiday and he's going straight back now. It's cost him over £100. But that's what they do. That's what they're doing. They pay, before they've gone, they've had to pay a father for the sons what pay for kick big boss. And then you get a game like that. This amateur rugby, it's absolutely out to this world. I absolutely love it. I really love it. And the standard is a lot higher than what people will give it credit for. They're just like, and if they came down and watched it, there is some real good rugby playing.
Well, this is something that I'm always keen to push, through the show that I do and being involved like I am with NCL stuff.
It's like I say, I've been involved with it a long time and I love it. It's my club and we've got special people involved. This lad here, he's been over for 30 years, legend of a man. And you get like a band of brothers, but at the moment now with summer, you're relying on a lot of lads to be, you know what I mean, families. Let's go to Southport, let's go to that field, the sun's out or whatever. I'm playing, you're playing, what time will they be over away at Kells? I'll see you at about 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? It's all right for us. And go and have a day out, but your families, sometimes your families miss out, don't they?
So do you feel maybe more regionalisation is the key moving forward, possibly?
Listen,
or even going back to winter rugby?
I don't think it'll ever go back to winter, but what I think will help, I think if it regionalised it, you'd get a bigger pond for pick out, you know what I mean? A bit of a bigger place for pick out. Look, like there's teams around Wigan, we've got a couple of teams around Wigan and they're really booming there, but they're in North West counties. So there's no travelling to do, so your lads can, especially at the moment, there's lads who can work in the morning and then come and have a game of rugby and then go home. With a conference, the better standards, you've a lot more sacrifices to make. And I think after COVID, when they did the regionalised competition, and then if you wanted like a playoff at the end of that, finances, very much one of the clubs. When we were playing them games, there was local derbies, Rosebridge, St Jude's, Leigh Miners, they made a absolute fortune. No, you come and you're Westall and there's not many people come watching Loch Lane and things like that. But we played Rosebridge in that Challenge Cup, there was 3,000 on. luckily that set us up for all season for our travel. Like we've got Westborough away, we've got Kells away, at Westall and stuff like that. So,
I mean, these are things that maybe a lot of people don't consider with community clubs, do they?
I tell you, Davis, there's a lot of sacrifices. And then when and then the back end of that, you play a game like that every week, where it is it's tough, it's a good standard, and you know what I mean. But so when you win, well, it's a great.
You want to enjoy it.
It's a great feeling.
I've got to ask you, and this is a typical reporter's question, because you'll probably say, listen, I had outstanding players all over the field, but did anybody really impress you today?
Tom Spencer, he's just come past. I know this is his third, fourth game for us now. Tom was here before he signed for Wigan. He's played Super League and he had a good career playing at Leigh and witnessing them sort of thing. So he knows what he's doing. But he's come down and his attitude's really good. Anyway, he's talking the changing rooms to the lads around him, and he's lifting these up by saying, listen, what you're saying, everything, it's not much. There's nothing wrong with it. Everything's right. It's just putting it into practice when you're tired. You know what I mean? And that's what that's. But I thought Joe Hyam's a scrum half. He played loose forward today. Played 13, and he
did countless carries, didn't he?
No, geez, but that was a plan because he was coming. They thought he was going to pass it, but he didn't. So that's what we had a talk about that. So he was making good yards because he's small and we're going good. We could do some stuff off Joe. Following Joe, you see, so that worked, but it's hard for the lad to do, and he's like 12.5 stone and 5'4", but he was really good, and I thought Sam Harris-Smith at full-back, Connor Taylor scored a wonder try from the scrum.
Was he 6?
Yeah, superb.
He was nippy all through the game.
Yeah, he was good, Connor. I must admit he was, and then the lads who we relied on, who were Pats lads from the 18s, Andy Hyam and Liam Gannon. They're 34, 35 now. They've been helping us get through, and they were invaluable. Not just with what they did with the ball and defend, with the talk. They brought a bit of calmness to them. You know what I mean? And so they need Dave Thompson, the centre. Oh, I could go on. I love them all. They're good lads. They're nice for me around.
And I get that. And obviously you're Mr. Wigan St Pats, aren't you? Because you've been down here for an awful long time. We've got all the different experiences that you've said as well.
Good people, nice people involved with the club. A lot of nice people. Joe Chan, I've just seen him come out there. Little Billy Hutchins, he's just been here. He was in committee 40 years ago. They're all good. This lad here, Paul Chan, he's got his own kids with him and he's sweeping changing rooms out. They're invaluable. But nobody sees that. Everybody will be at Burner talking about it, and he was at last night to me, and he's putting all chits and that away. And we'll have a sit down in a minute, and we'll have a beer, and we'll talk about the game.
Yeah, I'm going to go and let you enjoy that bit because you've earned it. Thank you very much. All right.
Great to hear from Dave there, and I didn't realise that he was a guy that has been literally involved in the National Conference League since it started. So Wigan St Pats were one of the initial 10 teams that formed the National Conference League back in, I think it was 1986. And, other than having a couple of years off for a couple of reasons, he's been there throughout. So it's really interesting to get his point of view. And fascinating bloke to talk to in a lot of respects. I said to you, didn't I, when we was travelling over to Siddal, I said, you know what, we're going to have a chat with Dave again. Because I found him so interesting to speak to, and it's very rare when you speak to somebody after a game that you'll get 11 minutes with them.
Yeah.
Almost unheard of, but it was a fascinating chat. It was great, and he was quick as well to praise so many people behind the scenes. They kept walking past us because where we were doing the interview was just outside the dressing room area in this little covered area. So there was just enough room for Dave to stand that side and me to keep the microphone dry. And then I was getting soaked stood at the side. But this is what it is. This is what we're in for. This is what we signed up for. And he had an interesting thing to say as well, to be honest, because obviously during the COVID times, the National Conference League was regionalised. And he feels that regionalisation would certainly be a way forward, because he anticipates by the end of this season, Wigan St Pats will have used 50 players.
Yeah, and again, going back to what we were saying before, I mean, from an NCL point of view, the distances you can be travelling, it can be a full day, you can be out a full day, and it's understandable if you've got a couple of teams in your division, and it is a full day, then it doesn't always travel well back home, etc. Because you're getting back, you get it going out early, you're getting back late. But yeah, not only that, Dave. I mean, we spoke about other things as well with regards to the logistics, because obviously those, all that travel requires a vehicle to get you there, and there's a cost to that vehicle, and obviously money's tight around all of the country at the moment. So, and I'm sure it's not something that's going to settle very, very soon. And I think again, this is another one of those where it's there's a lot of rumblings is the wrong word, but when you speak to people, the same thing arises. So if you're doing that individually, talking to people, and the same thing's coming up, there is an issue, and it needs to be sort of raised and spoken about, and say, well, how can we? Is there any way we can approach this and try to put something in place that alleviates it and make it easier? I can understand that the sort of playing the games regionally as they did in the COVID times, and I like that idea. The other side of the coin is I've spoke to players who said, well, actually, yeah, it was okay and there was a necessity in that respect, but it is nice when you're playing the likes of teams from Cumbria, and if you're a Lancashire team playing a team from Yorkshire, or a team from sort of up in Hull way, etc. But can they work it out where, okay, you can play these teams, but the distances you're travelling, you may not have there's a good mix in each division. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that from a cost point of view, it's something that has been spoke about on numerous occasions to us.
One thing that they do have to, be wary about, because another thing that was mentioned to me during that time is, whilst it was great, at that point I was involved at Leigh East, and they were getting to play against the likes of, Leigh Miners Rangers, who they'd not played for a couple of years, and Wigan St Pats and Wigan St Jude's again, and it was fantastic. But from another point of view, in a couple of the pools that were arranged at that particular point, there were real mismatches in standards. And that's something that you've got to be really, really careful of. We said that it would probably take a couple of years for things to settle down again, because for me at the moment, there's some teams that are playing in some of these divisions that realistically shouldn't be in those divisions. But we'll come to those sort of results, because there's been a couple of upsets, hasn't there, over recent weeks? We've been saying this, so perhaps the whole standard is on the improve. I'd like to think that, and perhaps as media manager for the National Conference League, I should be talking more about that, really, shouldn't I? The fact that, a lot of these results seem to be getting closer, and the fact that we're seeing these contests and well-matched divisions. But I think we've got to take into account some of what the clubs are saying, and the number of players that are being used and this type of things, and getting to the reason as to why there's so many players that are being used. So that was one of 3 games that happened in the Premier Division at the weekend of the National Conference League. The other games, they were between Kells and Loughborough Hornets. Loughborough Hornets coming out on top in that one by 28 points to 6. At half-time, it was close as anything, just 12 points to 6, but Loughborough getting away in the second half, thanks in the main to a couple of tries from Cole Walker-Taylor and 4 goals from Sam Kerwin as well. And then in the other Premier Division game, Hunslet were given the shock of their lives before coming out on top by 20 points to 14 at York Acorn. So it was all tied up 10 each at half-time. And then Acorn scoring a couple of tries through Hunt and Worthington. Conroy kicking a goal. And then for Hunslet, it was tries from Dagan, Shulver McShane with Jordan Gale kicking 2 goals and Danny Rouse kicking 2 goals. Those goal kicks proving decisive in the end for that particular victory as far as Hunslet were concerned. In Division 1, again, a couple of really close but low-scoring games. So, Crossfield 6, Featherstone Lions 10. That's Featherstone Lions' first win of the season, so well done to them. It's been a long time in coming, but they can start looking upwards at the league table now rather than thinking, oh, we're stuck to the bottom without a win to our name. For Crossfields, well, strangely enough, despite being ultra competitive in all the games so far this season, they find themselves third bottom now as a result of that particular loss. So that's how fine the margins are, to be honest, in Division 1. And then last week, we saw a humdinger of a game between Stanningley and West Bowling. This was one of those high scorers that you often said that I like, Steve. So it was 38-36 to Stanningley last week. What was the score going to be this week? Well, an altogether more low scoring for West Bowling, getting through by 16 points to 6. McGuigan scoring the lone try for Stanningley. West Bowling indebted to the efforts of Halmshaw, their hooker, who's a standout at that level. He scored 2 tries en route to that 16-6 victory. Then Division 2 saw a couple of really high scoring games. I'm going to say this quickly. Saddleworth Rangers 26, Waterhead Warriors 25. And this seems like an amazing game, Steve. You've done it. So many incidents.
The other thing as well, we were talking about when we were reviewing the fixtures last week, obviously for this week, and we were looking at, obviously, a lot of these are derby matches, certainly Cumbria ones, and then we got this one, and we said this could be the Oldham finals again, but that's absolutely cracking result.
Well, I'll actually read through the little report that got put in the League Express about this particular game. There's no leveller like a derby, as was proved in Division 2, where previously unbeaten leaders Waterhead Warriors were edged 26-25 by fellow Oldham outfit Saddleworth Rangers, who were only outside the relegation zone on point difference and had lost their previous 3 games. The Warriors brushed aside the sin binning of Andy Joy on 16 minutes for striking, and a yellow card for Jensen Hamilton for a professional foul 7 minutes into the second period to lead 24 points to 6 on the hour. But Saddleworth, who had opened through Steve Neild, lasted back to 24 points to 18 on 66 minutes, with touchdowns for Sam Hart and Evan Parry. Keegan Brennan knows the visitors 7 points clear, with 10 minutes remaining with a field goal, but Rangers responded 3 minutes later with a Matty Whitehead try. The same player booted his 4th conversion to peg Waterhead back to a point. The Warriors then had Brennan sin-binned for dissent and Joy sent off for an alleged high tackle. Whitehead landed the winning penalty goal after Joy's indiscretion. And as passions hit fever pitch, Saddleworth's Gavin Dodd and Joseph Howe, together with Waterhead's William Dickinson and Dale Lowe, were sent off for allegedly fighting. The visitors, who remained top of the table, had led through a Dickinson brace and tries by Mason Young, Lowe and Danny Bridge, 2 of which Hamilton improved. Oh, I'll tell you what an outstanding game, but what a tetchy affair come full time with all those cards being shown.
I'll tell you what, I bet they run out of pens when they were filling the sheet in at the end of the game.
I'd like to read the referee's report on that one. Put it that way. But that was just one of the thrills and spills that took place in Division 2, because Shawcross Sharks continued what has been a superb start to the season for them with that 30 points to 26 defeat of Woolston Rovers. And again, a really good result this. Woolston actually led by 20 points to 6 at half time. So this is the equivalent of someone climbing up off the canvas, isn't it? A boxer after being beaten down in the first couple of rounds.
I was just looking there. Shawcross Sharks have only played, is it 3 matches so far this season?
Well, to be honest, that table's a little bit out of date, unfortunately. So let me just bring you the up-to-date one, which shows Shawcross Sharks now having played 5 games, won 4 and lost 1. So they're sitting pretty in 4th
Yeah, that's good going, that isn't it? Because even though, like I was going to say, though, it said they did, last week it was 3-2, which is still, and they'd drawn one as well. So doing well. But yeah, Woolston Rovers, and we spoke about this before, Parker. If you remember, Billy Sheen there at Woolston Rovers was saying he was always on to his guys about sort of being. Not playing it to the end type of thing. They're getting a bit scrappy, etc. And obviously, you're 20-0 up at half time. I wonder if they've took the foot off the gas and thought, we've got this in the bag.
Just the one game took place in Division 3. This was played on Friday night between Hensingham and Seaton Rangers. And Seaton Rangers really struggling this season, so they lost out again by 36 points to 26. So Seaton Rangers, bottom of the entire section, one win from their first 6 matches, and that win pushes Hensingham up to 7th in the table. Got to say, high scoring as well. Couple of tries there from Scott Egan, and that they proved the difference in the end. Seaton actually leading that one at half time by 16 points to 10, and then Hensingham with one of those really, really fine second half performances that they are quite capable of. Putting the points on the board and coming away with the victory as well. So really interesting results, really interesting set of results, to be honest. And again, if we kind of like have a quick glance at the table like we do. So Hunslet unbeaten in the Premier Division. Loughborough Hornets now up to 2nd above West Hull. Rochdale Mayfield still sitting in 4th. Kells down to 6th now. And they are starting to lose a little bit of form. They had set off the season at quite a rate of knots, to be honest, at Kells, but perhaps the rigours of the Premier Division starting to catch up with them. They're now in 6th position. Below there is 7th as Siddal, York Acorn 8th, Wigan St Pats 9th. Bottom of that particular section, Leigh Miners Rangers with just the 1 win from their 7 games. But just to again say about how that division can go. That win came at West Hull, so anything can happen, can't it, really, to be honest?
Yeah, it certainly can.
And then in Division 1, West Bowling, they stay 2 points clear of Ulton Raiders thanks to that victory over Stanley. Stanley now sitting in 4th spot. Featherstone Lions with that first win of the season in 11th position, and I mentioned Crossfields dropping to 10th in the table.
Ooh, that is a drop, isn't it?
It is. But again, that is so tightly packed, to be honest. Get another couple of wins, you end up sitting in the playoff positions. So, and then currently in Division 2, you've got Waterhead Warriors still out on top by virtue of their superior point difference ahead of Dewsbury Moor Maroons and Woolston Rovers. Shawcross Sharks tucked in just beneath them in 4th, a point behind, but with a game in hand and everybody. And 2 games in hand of Woolston. So that could prove important come the end of the season. So what do the fixtures look like this coming week? Well, action gets underway in the Premier Division this coming Thursday evening. Leigh Miners Rangers, they host Thatterweath Crusaders. Then on Friday, Ulton Raiders travel over to Thornhill Trojans in Division 1. Then on Saturday in the Premier Division, it's Hull Dockers taking on Lock Lane. Siddal travelling over to Hunslet ARLFC. Also in the Premier Division, Kells host Wigan St Pats. Loughborough Hornets, they host Rochdale Mayfield. York Acorn go over to West Hull. In Division 1, 4 games take place this coming weekend. Ince Rose Bridge host Egremont Rangers. Skirler, they're at home to Featherstone Lions. Stanningley host Clockface Miners, while West Bowling face a bit of a heavyweight clash against Heworth. Division 2, Dewsbury Moor Maroons are at home against Shawcross Sharks. A Dewsbury derby on the cards there. Dewsbury Celtic, meanwhile, they travel over to East Leeds. Myton Warriors are on the road at Normanton Knights. Waterhead Warriors, they're hosting Barrow Island. Wigan St Jude's, they host Saddleworth Rangers. And Milford go over to play against Woolston Rovers. Then in Division 3, it's Bentley hosting Seaton Rangers. Hensingham on the road at Beverley. Oldham St Anne's travelling over the Pennines to face Driglington. Millham away at Eastmoor Dragons. Leigh East at home to Ellenborough Rangers. And that's your National Conference League fixtures and results done and dusted for another week, Steve.
I mean, considering certainly it was a truncated fixtures this week in the NCL. There was some really good results and games there.
Still a lot going on, isn't there?
Very much so. Yeah, should we
Even
go
in the weeks where you think there's not a lot going on, there's still a lot going on.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, they've been quality games, haven't there? There's some of the scores there, and somebody said for me, the York Acorn one, I know they come out as losers, but they can take so much out of that.
Now, before we look at Cumberland, before we look at Yorkshire men's, before we look at North West men's, I want to dip into England Community Lions because it was the big meet-up, the big launch for the under-18s and under-16s last week at Pilkington Rex. This week, it was down to training, and both of those camps have now split up. So the under-16s, they're training over at Caddy's Rhinos for the next few weeks. And the under-18s, they're training over at Leigh Miners Rangers Academy, which plays out of Manchester Road, Sutton Park. And I've got to say, I went along to Sutton Park. It's been a while since I've been there. What a fantastic facility now. They've now got an all-singing, all-dancing 4G pitch at the front. And they've done some upgrade work in the car park. It really is a well looked after and well presented facility that now. Very, very good. Really glad that it's hosting the Lions. It stands them in good stead, when all the youngsters are coming through at Leigh Miners Rangers. And, as I like to speak to players and give them an opportunity to have a bit of a natter with us, first of all, well, I picked out one of the under-18s hopefuls, Sam Murtagh from Kells. And this is our conversation. Who am I joined by?
My name's Sam Murtagh. It's lovely to be here. How are you doing?
Not so bad. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Which club are you representing and how long have you been playing rugby for?
So I've been playing rugby now for about 6 to 7 years. I'm currently from Kells AFC Rugby League Club down in Cumbria.
You can't ask for a much more traditional club really than Kells, can you?
Yeah, no, definitely not. One of the most toughest, best clubs that I've been through, grown up through there. I've had brilliant coaches and great experience and really good facilities, and just they've got me where I am today, and I'm very grateful for that. What was this trial process like? How many sort of things did you have to go through to get to this point? So first of all, I had to make a hard decision for my coaches by obviously performing and getting the opportunity and getting picked by my coaches. So when I got picked, it's a big opportunity. I know England's obviously your country. That you want to get there. You want to play for the Free Lions. So I know I was obviously going to have to dig deep and put the effort in, and it was going to be tough. But I've come now and I've had a couple of sessions, and I'm fortunate enough to get to the stage where I am now. And unfortunately, I'm a bit injured at the moment, so I can't carry on. But I'm going to make sure that once I finish with my injury, that I work 120% harder than what I had to in the before the injury, and I've got to work hard and make sure I make the coaches' lives difficult with picking the players. Now, we're here at Sutton Park today, so home of Leigh Miners Rangers Juniors, or Leigh Miners Rangers Academy as it is now. Yeah. Has it been a while since you last played here? Have you ever been here? Yeah, so I remember, I think it was well before COVID, so quite a while ago. I think it was about 3-4 years ago. Playing for Kells, and I think it was under 16s, 16s, 14s. Played here, and I'll tell you what, it's a big difference now. I'll tell you that. Back when I come down, it was just pure mud, bog. I don't even think there was an inch of grass, to be totally honest with you. But looks like they've dealt well with the club. They've put a bit of money into it, and good on them. And it looks really brilliant. And the lads are lucky to be able to train on this today. And I know as well that, as we've touched upon, you're right at the start of this programme. Yeah. Obviously, some of these guys are going to become your best mates, so hopefully over the next few months. Gary, before talking about it's now gone from like a 4-match programme to a 6-match programme, including sort of under-17s games as well. It's exciting being involved, isn't it? Yeah, it's brilliant. It's also just that it gives everybody an opportunity, no matter what. So it's not going to make people feel like if you don't get picked, it's the end of the world. You've still got an opportunity, and even so, you're not putting the 18 squad, which I'm sure all the 17s are going to be wanting to do. It's sort of it gives them that hunger and the fight to sort of I might not have made it for the 18s, but I've still got 2 chances to play my own age and succeed and do well, and possibly even get put into the 18 squad. There's plenty of opportunities next year. There's the under-19s championship, which I'm sure most all the lads are going to be wanting to do and experience, and obviously that just motivates them to work harder and play and train harder.
Sam, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you out there very soon, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I can't wait to be there for myself. Thank you. Cheers, mate.
Sam still in buoyant mood there. This despite picking up a broken collarbone just last weekend. That was a painful injury, that.
I think didn't we discuss this over the weekend when we were going up to Featherstone? You don't see many collarbone fractures these days in rugby compared to how they used to be.
No, and I think he's one of those lads. He'll play anywhere and do anything for his team. So I think he was playing a little bit out of his position.
Yeah.
He's normally more a fullback or winger, and I think he was playing in the forwards. So I'm hoping that he gets back on the field sooner rather than later. What a good talker, though.
Yeah.
Can't believe that was his first ever interview. That.
It's strange. Remember last season we were on about obviously trying to give these lads some experience of doing this type of thing, and then you suddenly unearth little gems like that.
Absolutely fantastic. So no doubt we'll hear from Sam over the course of the year. Certainly hope so anyway. But another guy that we'll hear plenty from is the under-18s Lions coach, Gary Hewer, and I caught up with him after the session.
Right, I'm delighted to be alongside Gary Hewer. Gary, it was the first training session of the extended squad for the Lions, and it's really interesting where this programme's going this year, isn't it? It's having one squad to go across 6 games and 2 age groups.
It is, yeah. The original dynamic was a 4-test programme with Wales home and away, and we had Ireland and Scotland in there. But obviously a new dynamic came in that French came in at the 11th hour and wanted 2 test matches at 17, which sort of threw another concept to it really, part way in the selection process. So when we did the analysis on the 40 man we selected, primarily heading towards the train-on squad for the under-18 programme, we found that we could accommodate the 17s because 3/4 of that team were the 17 age group. So we now on our first training session as a train-on squad. So this is one of 2 training sessions that we then will head into a red v blue game, and then from that game we will then establish our under-17 framework for 2 tests and our under-18 framework for 4-test framework, but we're all one squad heading towards the European Championships for 2024.
You got through some good work there as well, to be honest, because obviously there was the introductory day last week, but no training. There wasn't quite as much talk at that as perhaps terminologies and stuff like that at that point.
Yeah, the launch was good last week, from a variety of angles, from professionalism, from a medical point of view, obviously from a welfare point of view, and generally communicating with, bear in mind some of these are still minors, 17-year-old, communicating, building rapport with the parents and stuff, but also preparing the players what to expect when they come in here. So when they came in here, we very much hit the ground running really, and these, like I say, these first 2 sessions before the red v blue is giving the guys some basic principles and some frameworks to play in, and then let's just see what they can offer, and then from that, once we've got the positional specific lined up and we've got the combinations and the squads, we can then go into technicalities in a little bit more in terms of individualism and combinations and so on. So yeah, it's really encouraging. Today was really encouraging from an initial slow start, which you always expect when you come into these representative environments. They picked it up really well, and it was a shame to finish at 11:30 because it was rolling so good. But obviously, we've got to respect that these players are from community clubs, and some of those guys are playing this afternoon as well, David, to be honest.
It was really interesting. I always look at the dynamics of rooms, so right at the start when everybody sits down, who talks to who and that type of stuff, and there was some quite good mixing going on, which is encouraging at this early stage, isn't it?
It is. Well, part of the introduction, the launch day last week was we did a bit of an icebreaker to take the players out of their comfort zones, and you've got to be realistic about these things. Some people aren't natural speakers, and some people can talk underwater, and I'm one of those, to be honest, David. But some players come out of the comfort zones, and it's part of that is to get them to be able to communicate better and effectively, whether it's verbal or non-verbal. But players do need to communicate one way or another, because the closer we get together as a unit, tight unit, the more we get out of each other and get out of ourselves, really. So that's a big thing of mine going forward in any rep camps I've been involved with, that the closer we come together and the quicker we do that and the quicker we understand each other's play and the traits, the better we'll get out of each other at the major outcomes.
At this sort of level though as well, you're building on them as people and building the skills, communications, everything, isn't there, really, at this age group?
They're on a journey. They're building up a career, and this is part of that. We've got players here that that potentially will drop off and go into professional programs. Some will go on and have other international representative honours. I'm almost sure through to there's 23s, there's open age, and and that's the nature of the program. But it's all about character building along the way, and along the way we'll see some characters, and we've already identified a few of them today. We say the ones that want a kiss and a cuddle, and that's part of the coaching aspects and the philosophy that I've got. It's trying to understand that and what works for them and what works for me. And it's all about character building at various levels on and off the field, and controlling people's anger, aggression and attitude. And it's quite simple here. We have a no dickhead policy. We don't want any of that. It's the heritage of the shirt and who we're representing, and we've got to conduct ourselves within the context of that, and be proud to wear the England shirt and a Test shirt if they get it.
Finally, we're doing all the training sessions down here at Sutton Park, home of Leigh Miners Academy. It's pretty different from the last time I came here. What a great facility it is now.
Fantastic facility. We're here now just looking across a 3G field that we've just trained on here, and we'll train onto this as much as we need to. Any full maybe contact sessions and a little bit more game, we maybe go on the field, which is a bit more sort of game related, arguably, because you can play on the 3Gs as well. But the facilities are class, to be honest, and we've even brought the weather today, so it makes a big difference as well. So it's great.
Yeah, I noticed that. No big coats needed.
No big coats. I brought my brolly. I've travelled 2 hours up from Cumbria. I've got my brolly. I've got my flippers. I'm expecting anything here. You know what I mean?
Well, you've got to be prepared for all weathers, haven't you?
Well, you've got to be prepared for all weathers. In coaching throws also that you've got to be prepared to adapt and adjust within your sessions, and we've had to do some of that today, based on 1 or 2 carrying injuries and 1 or 2 unable to train for various community club injuries and stuff. But that's the nature of the game. You've always got to be adaptable and have a contingency. But overall, very pleased with the first session, great facilities, and roll on next week.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So a good start all round then, according to Gary. But an interesting thing to take from that conversation is the fact that where both the under-18s and under-16s had been preparing for 4 internationals this year, the under-18s have now had 2 internationals put upon them from an under-17s level against France. And it's interesting hearing Gary talking about the fact that they had to check everybody's birthdays to see whether or not they qualified and whether they picked too many under-18s and not enough under-17s. But you heard from him saying there that there was a much larger emphasis on under-17s players this year, which is it's proved out pretty good there, hasn't it?
Well, do you know what, this is strange, isn't it? There's a touch of irony in this, isn't there? As we well know about the French team that played in the European Championships, it was one of those sorts of, you looked at them and you thought, hang on, are they really that age?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, they sent an under-17 side across last year, and I swear that they were under-19. Yeah. There is no doubt they were all bigger. They all look like they all got full beards and mustaches. So we'll see what happens. I've yet to have the dates be penciled in actually for those 2 internationals, but again, it's something that I'll keep you up to date during my course of Life with the Lions for 2023.
Oh. Life of the Lions. I don't know, Parky. It sounds like you're going on safari.
It certainly does, doesn't it? Well, with a bit of luck, I could be over at Leigh Sports Village on Friday night doing leopards against tigers. So, why not chuck lions in there as well? Right. Let's go to a more regional level, shall we? And I want to start off just because purely they're in front of me at the moment with the results from the Yorkshire Men's League Cup competition this past weekend. And I've got a match report to bring you as well. So the results, first of all, Stanley Rangers 30, Almonby Spartans 14, Westgate Commons 16, Newson Panthers 30. That's a fine result, that, for Newson Panthers. And Charleston Rovers 32, Cutsick Raiders 14. And then the one that I have the report for, Siddal Academy 16, Freiston Warriors 10. So the report, Russ Holroyd's Siddal side put on their best performance of the season in beating a very useful Freiston Warriors 16 points to 10 on Saturday. The first half was evenly contested, with both teams driving and tackling well. For Siddal, halfbacks Josh McDonald and Will Scrimshaw were moving the ball wide to play an expansive game on the back of solid forward play from front rowers Mason Scott, Connor Clayton and Adam Horner. Ben Hinsley, Oliver Waite and Luke Doyle were all putting in the shift in the pack as the sides looked for an opening. Siddal probed through Alex Stojanovic, Freddie Warburton and Callum Mulkeen, but Featherstone were well served in defence by Liam Hands and Ryan Smith, who kept the visitors' line intact. Siddal nudged ahead just 3 minutes before the break when they kept the ball alive on the last tackle. MacDonald, Hinsley, Scrimshaw and Gareth Blackburn all got their hands on the ball, and a great pass from Jacob Ellis saw the marauding Josh Brown cross the line for a 4-0 half-time lead. Siddal then hit a purple patch at the beginning of the second half. Connor Rose, Tom Dan and Robson McGowan were seeing more of the ball and making good yards. On 47 minutes, Siddal stretched their lead when Brown again showed an eye for a try with a strong finish after Hinsley, McDonald and Scrimshaw again combined to move the ball wide. Blackburn's conversion put the home side 10-0 ahead. The gap was widened 5 minutes later when Siddal kept the ball in play on the last tackle and Scrimshaw pounced on an incisive kick inside to register an opportunist try, which was converted by Blackburn for 16 points to 0. Featherstone showed spirit and quality in the final quarter of the game. Halfback Leighton Davis, fullback Jay Priest, and centre Brad Ben in particular showed their qualities as they rallied their colleagues in a strong comeback. Centre Jack Robinson touched down after 62 minutes to reduce the deficit to 16-4, and a full-length sprint from Ben from his own line after Siddal spilled the ball in attack after 69 minutes brought Featherstone right back into contention when Davis' conversion made the scoreline 16 points to 10. Siddal held out during the final 10 minutes for a deserved win. In a great team effort, Josh Brown was awarded the man of the match, and he was run close by Hinsley, Waite, Scrimshaw and McDonald. Again, that final score, Siddal Academy 16, Featherstone Warriors 10. Cracking result that, by the way, and I really appreciate the match report being sent through too.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, if anybody gets any match reports, certainly over from the other side of the Pennines, because we found it difficult, obviously, to get over there, unless it's Featherstone.
You're right there if it's Featherstone.
Then please do send your reports over. We really do appreciate that. Then we can give a better flavour and a bit more depth to those games that are being played. Not just here over on this side, but whether it be up in Cumbria, whether it be over in Yorkshire. The more the merrier, as they say.
Plenty of games in the trophy competition. So Greatland All-Rounders 24, Farnley Falcons 0, Sherburn Bears 0, Garforth Tigers 40, Wibsey Warriors 36, Methley Warriors 16, Odsal Sedberg 22, Kirkburton Cougars 40, Castleford Panthers 34, Illingworth 10, Elland 8, Seacroft Sharks 28, and Bradford Dudley Hill 46, Mould Green 0. And finally, Wyke 24, Queensbury 32. Any standouts there for you, Steve?
It's just that, I always said that the fact that there are so many games and so many teams, it's amazing how there's not a massive amount of cancellations over that side of the Pennines. But yeah, some cracking games, some great results.
Some cracking games as well in the Shield. So these are your results from last week. Todd Murden 22, Birkinshaw Blue Dogs 14, Goole Vikings 24, Mould Green A-0, St York St John Barbarians 10, Batley Boys 16, Olmsbury Spartans A-0, East Hull 24, Dodworth Miners 42, Charleston Rovers Academy 4, Bramley Buffaloes 24, Cottingham Tigers 0, and we've also got Keighley Albion Academy 26, West Craven Warriors 20, Upton, this is a great result for them, 52, Westgate Common A 6.
52-6, that's a big score.
Cracking result, that, isn't it? Really good result. And then just finally, these all look like the 24 points to 0 as these. we've got some results from the National Conference League Alliance Cup Yorkshire's division. So Myton Warriors 24, Saddleworth Rangers 0, Skirler 24, Hewitt 0, Shawcross Sharks 24, you guessed it, Stanley 0.
I spoke too soon, haven't I? That's what it is.
Thornhill Trojans 0, Hull Dockers 24, and then we look like we have got a couple of results properly to bring you. Normanton Knights 16, Milford 10, Bentley 34, York Acorn 28, West Bowling Academy 12, Onslaught 50. And now if we cross over the Pennines,
we're going back to Northwest Men's. And we was all cups this weekend over here as well. Kicking off with the Northwest Men's League Cup. And results there. Isham Atoms 4, Inley 26, Forley Lane 30, Chorley Panthers 12, Holton Farmworth Hornets 24, Shevington Sharks 0, Larksford Albion 28, Wigan Springview 32, Ashton Burrs 24, Salford City Roosters 0. Then we go down into the Northwest Men's League Trophy. Banky Bulls 24, Culture Eagles 0. Goulburn Parkside versus Highpool Tigers, no result available. Preston and South Ribble Rabbitohs, easy for me to say, 0. Rochdale Hornets 24. Runcorn Highfield 14, Newton Storm 26. Higginshaw 36, Langworthy Reds 16. West Bank Burrs 24, Walney Central 0. Garswood Stags 20, Burton Woodbridge 42. And in the Alliance Cup there, we've got Rochdale Mayfield A 24, Woolston Rovers A 0. Waterhead Warriors A 26, Hints Rose Bridge A 28. Clockface Chargers A versus Aston Burrs A, no result available. Crossfields A 0, Leigh Miners Rangers A 24, and Tatooine Crusaders A 24, Oldham St Anne's A 12. Just nipping back to the Northwest Men's Trophy. I was at the game between Runcorn Highfield and Newton Storm up in Heath Park, I think it is, in Runcorn. Lovely venue, lovely park. Strange day. It started off, it was absolutely blistering and very tough for both sides in the heat. And then come half time, it just changed round. It started to get cooler and a little bit of only light drizzle at the end, a slight drizzle at the end. But it was strange. A lot of changes for Newton Storm. They had quite a few players missing. And to be fair, Runcorn Highfield really brought a tough game, a really hard, tough game. Because obviously they were fighting two divisions above. So they really took it to Storm and went, I think it was 12-0 ahead. They scored 2 tries in the Storm's left-hand side. Then Storm started to get back into things and started to close the gap. But it was still tough from either side. As Storm started to get in front, then Highfield just seemed to get a little bit rattled with things, the way things were going. Not all the calls were going their way. They had 2 players sin-binned, which obviously didn't help the game. And then, unfortunately, the coach was sent off for disputing some of the decisions. But it was a tough, hard game. From a Newton point of view, it was a disciplined performance because they stuck to the task quite well, and obviously are happy to get through. And considering, as I say, a lot of the guys haven't played much rugby together as a team, they did show up well. And I know from Phil Woods' point of view, from Jonathan Mann as well, they'll be happy to see how some of those guys did manage to play for moving on further down the line.
Important, that, isn't it? You know, that sort of development, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit that some of the guys I hadn't seen before, they've been obviously down training, etc., and I hadn't seen them play. And there was nobody on there that I would say, they shouldn't really be on. some of the lads, I would even go as far as to say that they should hold a place to moving forward, because good selection, and it's good to have that headache in the sense of you got various positions where you've got 2 or 3 players. Full back is one. They've got 2 players who really can play full back, no problem whatsoever, and they're as good as each other. Now this weekend, one played at full back, the other slipped in at centre because, as I said, there was a few missing. But the guy who slipped in at centre, great rugby player. And it's good that they can play different positions as well.
Very much so, very much so. And, let's have a look at what we've got coming up this coming weekend. So from a Yorkshire men's point of view, on Saturday in the Premier Division, it's Featherstone Warriors against Westgate Common. Division 1 sees Siddal Rovers take on Stanley Rangers. Hull-Wyke against Nottingham Outlaws. Cutside Raiders, I should say, put my teeth in, go over to Ossett Trinity Tigers. In Division 2, Kirkburton Cougars host Queensbury. Wibsey Warriors, they host Illingworth. From Division 3, Seacroft Sharks travel over to Castleford Panthers. Elland go over to face Underbank Rangers. Garforth Tigers, they host Methley Warriors. Division 4A, Bramley Buffaloes are due to take on Goole Vikings. Westgate Common A are also due to host Harrogate Hawks. And from Division 4B, Brighouse Rangers A host Todmorden. King Cross Park Academy, they host Keighley Albion Academy. Mould Green A, they're at home against Newsom Panthers A. And Birkinshaw Blue Dogs make the journey across to West Craven Warriors. Division 4C, Rycroft Hammers host Sherwood Wolfhunt. Upton, they take on Sheffield Forgers. And in the Hull division, it's East Hull taking on Skirler Bulls. Myton Warriors at home to Cottingham Tigers. Hull Dockers travelling over to West Hull. And in the National Conference League East Division, Lock Lane host Normanton Knights. Featherstone Lions, they host Hunslet. Alton Raiders are against Heworth. And Bentley go over to face York Acorn. And your fixtures from the Northwest Men's League this coming weekend in the Cup. On Saturday, Haresfinch host Dalton. Caddy's Head Rhinos host Orrell St James. In the Alliance Cup, Leigh East A are due to take on Orrell St James A. If you fancy going across to Leigh East ahead of that first team fixture that they're playing, they're going to be playing that game as well, the Alliance Cup. So get over for about 12 o'clock. You'll get 2 games for the price of 1. In the Premier Division, Hindley host Halton Farmouth Hornets. In Division 1, Wigan Springview move on over to Thatto Heath Crusaders A. Division 2, Rochdale Mayfield A are on the road at Highpool Tigers. And from Division 3, it's Higginshaw taking on Westbank Bears. Waterhead Warriors A hosting Langworthy Reds. Rochdale Hornets going up to Blackpool Scorpions. And then from the Alliance Division, Oldham St Anne's A take on Intros Bridge A. Pilkington Rex A host Wigan St Jude's A. That's your action from the Northwest Men's League. Now, we're moving on to Cumbria, and it was cup action. Yes, we've got another cup to play for, and this time it was the Fur Press Printers Cumberland Cup. In the preliminary round, Wathbrow 20, Lauca 16. So at half-time, this was 16 points to 6. And the scorers for Wathbrow came courtesy of 2 tries from Jack Megan and 1 each from Luke Spivey and Matt Hubie, 2 conversions from Jensen Alstrom. And then from a Lauca point of view, Mitchell Todd grounded the ball twice for tries. Jordan Allen getting over for a try. Keith Campbell kicking over 2 goals. And the interesting one about that one is because it was so close at half-time, there was just 2 tries scored in the entire second half. One after 44 minutes, one after 56 minutes. And then job done, 20 points to 16. So no tries and no points in the last 24 minutes of a game. We can't say that happens very often, can we, Steve?
No, it's usually the other way around, isn't it? You get a good defensive effort and then suddenly there's a tired pack or gaps start to appear, and that's when it opens up. But yeah, that's strange, that.
I think there was plenty of gaps appearing in this next game. So this again from the Fur Press Printers Cumberland Cup. Cockermouth 44, Egremont 36. So Cockermouth, they had 3 tries from John Patrick, 2 from Rob Scott, 2 from Ryan Scott, 1 each from Jack Gaskill and Lewis Shield. Ryan Scott also kicked 4 goals as well for a 16-point contribution, which got him the Man of the Watch award, perhaps unsurprisingly. For Egremont, they had try scorers from Jack Stainton, he grabbed 2, Jack Conway, Brad Oglenby, Sam Williams, and Jack Pay, with 3 conversions from the boot of Caden Block. And as I say, that's just an amazing game, 44-36. And then another game to bring you up to speed with: Maryport 22, Kells 18. Half-time, both these sides locked up, 12 points. Maryport with tries from Chris Avison, Ellis Nixon, Luke Baker, and Luke McKnight. Blake Miller kicking 3 goals there. Ellis Nixon walking away with the Man of the Match award. And then for Kells, tries from Michael Orr, Daniel Starkey, and Harvey Smith. So Daniel Starkey also had 3 goals. Casey Chambers the best for them as well. And then finally, this sounds like an absolute classic, to be honest, Steve. Glasson Rangers 21, Hensingham A 20. And at half-time as well, it was 16 points to 4 in Hensingham's favour. So Glasson, they had tries from Luke Johnson, Richard Stamper, Matthew Burns, and Scott Faulkner. 2 conversions came from the boot of Luke Johnson, and more crucially, that drop goal as well came from Johnson as well. Then for Hensingham, Scott Egan scored a try. Now, if you remember when we were doing our NCL roundup, Scott Egan scored 2 tries for Hensingham on the Friday night. He backed it up and played on the Saturday. Huge effort from him.
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
The other try scorers for Hensingham were Dylan Cromwell, Callum Morgan, and Dane Richardson. Goals split between Dane Richardson and Dean Bragg, who kicked 1 each. And perhaps unsurprisingly, from a Hensingham point of view, after we've bigged him up, Scott Egan picked up the Man of the Match for them as well. So some great results, some great games. And the fixtures this coming weekend, well, we're back to Holman, Eagleson, Cumberland League action. And on Friday, it's Egremont Rangers A at home to Hensingham A, Ellenborough A at home to Glasson Rangers, Seaton Rangers A go over to play against Wafbrow Hornets A. And then on Saturday, Cockermouth Titans, they host Maryport. Lauca take on Kells A. That's your action from Cumbria. Now, I'm going to take you to the London League. So in the Premier Division of the London League, we've got results from London Chargers A 46, Medway Dragons 4. And fixtures this coming week in the East of England League. In the Cup competition, it's Anglian Vipers taking on Bedford Tigers. St Albans Centurions against Invicta Panthers. Hemel Stags take on North Hearts Crusaders. And in the Merit League, Invicta Panthers, they're also hosting Canvey Knights. And there's a couple of games to tell you about from the Midlands Premier Division as well. So Birmingham Bulldogs, they host Coventry Bears. Oxford Cavaliers host Leamington Royals. And interestingly enough, there's been a bit of an internet. I don't know whether to call it a spat or whether to call it a discussion, a heated discussion between Birmingham Bulldogs and Coventry Bears. So Birmingham Bulldogs, they're hosting the game at the weekend, and they're charging £6 to get in.
Ooh.
Against Coventry Bears. Now, you can get an early bird offer, which means that you can get in for £4.50. But even so, that's sort of double the price of a National Conference League game. Most teams charge between £2.50 and £3 to get in, as we've found out over the course of the season so far. So it's something that maybe they should look at. But having said that, maybe Birmingham have to hire their facility and as a result get charged a bit more. So we don't know the ins and outs, in fairness.
Yeah, I agree, Parky. I mean, there's obviously the lower the leagues, I know certainly North West Men's, and I think it's same with the Yorkshire Men's as well. You may get the odd person come around to do a collection, but there's no sort of admission charge as such. And even in the NCL, as you say, it's I think it's what, £3 is probably the most we've paid, or something along those lines.
Definitely. So while I was jetting off around the country, I forgot to mention the Barrow League as well. So we've got a couple of results there to tell you about. Walney Central 24, Dalton 26, Ulverston 24, Askham 0, Barrow Island 24, Hindpool 0. You spoke too soon with these 24, to be honest. The fixtures this coming weekend in the Furnace Tiles League sees Millom due to host Ulverston, Dalton due to go over to Askham, and Barrow Island at home to Walney Central. It's all up and running again in community level. And again, just something to quickly tell you about. Unfortunately, all the commitments meant that I weren't there for the opening round of this year's President's Cup. We did cover it quite extensively last season, didn't we? So I'm hoping that certainly over the last 2 rounds, we're going to be having a little bit of a chat with various people involved. But the UK Armed Forces 50, Great Britain Police 4 was from the opening game. And England Universities 54, Great Britain Teachers 14 in the second game. So high scores there.
Yeah, very much so. President's Cup. It's always a strange one, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah. I mean, you look at it and, I think long term, and people probably understand when I say this, the top 2 have usually been the armed forces and the students in Furness, because of what's behind them and the amount of personnel that they have to call.
Yeah.
But I mean, last year we saw a couple of upsets, didn't we? So the police got a notable victory along the way. And the teachers were also much improved and very competitive, but from my point of view, I don't know whether there's been vast personnel changes in the last 12 months. Obviously, it comes down to who's available.
That's right, yeah.
When all said and done, these games all taking place on Wednesday nights, by the way, which sometimes can be a bit of a bind for people getting off work and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that we get to see closer results over the rest of the competition. So the next 2 dates for your diary, as far as they're concerned, Wednesday, the 10th of May, England Universities are against Great Britain Police, and the Great Britain Teachers, they're against the UK Armed Forces. Kickoffs at 6 o'clock for the first game, 8 o'clock for the second. Both of those being played at Rochdale at Mayfield. And then on Wednesday, the 24th of May, it's another one of your favourite places. No, not Featherstone Ste. We're talking Oral St James. That's going to play host to the final round of fixtures, which sees Great Britain Police take on Great Britain Teachers at 6 o'clock and the England Universities against the UK Armed Forces at 8. So that's Oral St James, 24th of May.
I mean, I must admit, the Great Britain Police, I saw them at Portico in the Challenge Cup it was, and I was impressed with them. I thought they were very good. I know they got pipped on that one, but, the rugby that they played was some really, really good stuff.
And to be fair, I mean, they were 22 points to 0 down in the game against UK Armed Forces. You can't give the Armed Forces that level of lead, can you? Well, you can't give anybody that level of an advantage, in fairness. But, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes as well, to be honest, for the rest of that competition. And no doubt we'll be keeping our ears close to the ground and trying to chat with as many people as we can.
Certainly will be, yeah.
Tell you what, Steve, we're all done and dusted for another episode.
It goes so quick, Parky.
It flies by. So have you got your eyes on any particular fixtures this coming week?
None at the moment, certainly with the Northwest men's being a bit truncated as it were. I've not pinned my colours to any mast yet, but I'll certainly be out there looking at something, and Bill will be back to report next week. In fact, it might be one of those where I might even dip into the the NCL and see what I can go out and watch.
Look out for a poll appearing on my Twitter account, to be honest, at Dave Atkinson RL, because I think I know where I might be on Thursday evening, because Leigh Miners Rangers are hosting Thatto Heath Crusaders, but that means I've got a Saturday open. But it's one of those, because as I mentioned, the Lions under 16s, they're training at Caddy's-Head. It's got to be within, quite a short hop of Caddy's-Head, really, from my point of view, for when that training finishes to when it starts. So I'm probably going to be looking at Ince Bridge against Egremont, Wigan St Jude's against Saddleworth, Woolston against Milford, or Leigh East against Ellenborough. I've not decided yet, and I'm going to open it up, so you'll have your chance to vote on it.
Vote. Yeah, that's what we like. I'm just having a quick look at what I could go. And Woolston Rovers are at home, so it could be a Woolston Rovers, or it could even be Wigan St Jude's against Saddleworth Rangers.
We'll find out. So if you want us to get over to you, give us a mention at 13 Pro RL. But that, as I said, that's us done and dusted. It's always a delight bringing this show. Thanks ever so much again, Steve, for all your efforts.
No problem, mate. And don't forget, by the way, if you are listening on Spreaker, you can actually catch us on YouTube now. We've managed to get on there. And if you do go and listen to us on YouTube, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because we want to try and get as many listeners/viewers as possible on there as well. And it's another platform. It's another popular platform for you to listen to and let other obviously rugby playing friends have a listen to what we have to say and join in on our discussion. So yeah, looking forward to next week, Parker.
Very much so. You didn't mention what you said last week. You said hit that bell. Bell.
Smash that like button. That's the one, isn't it?
Smash that like button. That's the one. Right, we're out of here. We'll see you next week.